gameplay within World of Tanks console has been iffy, to say the least. I want to find out what your views are on the gameplay as of recently and all of the updates and all of the new stuff and content that have come to the game. And that is really the crux of today's video. We're going to be talking about the updates, what it's done to the gameplay, the impact of wheeled vehicles, and basically just the state of play at the moment within the game. One of the biggest kind of factors that I think we need to talk about is, of course, the impact of wheeled vehicles and the introduction of the French wheeled vehicles like the EBR-90, the EBR-105, etc. and the Lynx and all of the French wheeled light tanks that have come into the game as of the most recent kind of big tech tree line for World War II, and I think that's something that we can kind of talk about. I don't think the vehicles themselves straight away are necessarily that overpowered, game breaking, whatever you want to call it, but I think it's introduced a whole new kind of meta, a whole new kind of problem that's arisen since those vehicles were released, which I feel like is essentially a lot of people just YOLOing and going into weird positions because they see that there are opponent wheeled vehicles that are just able to pull off some really crazy maneuvers, and unfortunately that causes some players to get that rush of, you know what, to the brain, and then I think that ends up in some pretty quick losses that I've been seeing within the game. And I also think that the introduction of those vehicles with such low hit points and a lot of players that maybe have never played light tanks before jumping into the wheeled light tanks and then doing some really silly kind of maneuvers where they just drive into the enemy team. No matter what tank you're in, if you go full-fledged into 15 opponents, you're going to get taken out. I don't care if you're the best player in the world or the worst player in the world. The result is the same. You're going to get taken out really, really quickly. And I think that what that does is then, you know, if one team has 4 French wheeled light tanks that do exactly that, you're then down 4 tanks very, very quickly. And then, of course, it's pretty one-sided if you're having to kind of fight back against that. And I think that that's definitely caused a little bit of problems. Am I saying it's necessarily the be-all and end-all and the game is terrible? No. But what I am saying is that I feel like a lot of people maybe are misinformed, or maybe they just don't understand, or maybe they just haven't been playing the game. I don't know whether it's because of the new influx of kind of players. I've been seeing server populations as high as I've seen them in a long, long time. 21,000 I think I saw yesterday as the recording this video, which was pretty high for console, to say the least. Never really seen anything over like 15,000 in a long, long time. It's been pretty consistent over 18,000 for like the last couple of weeks, which I think is a really good signal, at least in terms of like the player numbers and people that are interested in the game, which is of course good for anyone that actually wants the game to succeed in the long run. Whether or not like the decision making and stuff that's going on right now with Wargaming as the developer is 100% in line with the players that are going to be joining, and whether Wargaming can like keep hold of those players is a different topic, and I guess that's what we'll talk about now, and the state of gameplay with that. Retaining new players has always been a little bit of a sticking point for Wargaming, where they've really struggled to keep those players that maybe play for maybe a week or 2 weeks to actually stick around for a long period of time. There is of course a very loyal audience to World of Tanks that, you know, repeatedly play multiple times a day for days and days on end, 24/7, 7 days a week, you know, just constantly playing the game every single night. And I think that obviously makes up a small percentage of the overall. I think a lot of people are very, very casual players that jump on maybe a couple evenings a night, and they're not really that fussed on the game. So if you don't make it easy for those players to stick around, if you don't provide them with the content that will help them to kind of learn the game, and so they're not just jumping on and being absolutely mauled. I mean, it's going to happen when you first start any game. But if Wargaming make it easy, which I guess to give credit they are trying, but I feel like they haven't really reached the core issues. A lot of it is just like, well, we'll give them a stat bonus increase for the first like 100 games that they play, which doesn't really solve the core issue itself, which is that the systems in place don't make it intuitive, they don't make it easy for new players to really understand, and so a lot of the time they're redirecting people to guides and stuff on YouTube which is external to the game. And if you're just starting a game, for example, say if I just pick up, I don't know, Mario Kart for an example, like I don't want to have to go off of the game to learn how to actually, you know, drive forward or how to do all of that sort of stuff. I know that there is a tutorial system in World of Tanks, so yeah, it's okay, but it's one tutorial that lasts one game and it's optional, and most people, you know, they're not going to pick that. But I guess that, you know, trying to make sure that people have the opportunity to learn, I think virtual assistant, stuff like that really does help. Obviously your opinions really can help with this as well. I don't think Wargaming kind of get enough kind of constructive criticism. A lot of the time they just don't care if you're just effing and jeffing and saying this is broken, because, you know, how are they going to fix it if they literally have no idea what you're even ranting about, other than the fact that it's not easy for a new player. So I do think that we have to argue our actual case kind of in a good way, because otherwise it's pointless. And I mean, it might even be pointless anyway, because at the end of the day they're the billion-pound company and not really going to care about a couple people online. But I think that, yeah, definitely the new player experience needs to improve further. They've not done like the best thing that they possibly could, but definitely extra things need to be added to the game. They've done a little bit. We're on the kind of sort of the right track, but still we need to put pressure on Wargaming to continue developing stuff to teach new players, and especially if you are a new player, you want to know that. Now, I don't know if it's just me or whether everyone is kind of seeing this at the minute, and I've been playing for a long time, 8 years. And I don't think I've seen the YOLO Fest as bad as it is currently on World of Tanks, console that is, because it seems like everyone just decides that they're gonna just all go one flank, and I have seen it before, you know, but it's nearly every game now, and I don't know whether that's because people just don't know the maps that have come back into the game. Maybe people haven't been playing long enough to know where they're actually supposed to go. So I think that that's something I wanted to ask you guys again, because if you let me know if you need map guides, if you need a tutorial on something to actually know where not to go and where to go, I can obviously do those in the videos coming each day, every single week. You know, I've probably been uploading maybe, I think I've uploaded something like 450 videos, and most of them, you know, probably 4/5 of them are gameplay that hopefully showcase at least how you can play on different maps. I know people always tend to go in a similar sort of spot and then develop from there. But definitely, hopefully, that at least showcases how you can tackle some maps within the game, and you'll learn a little thing or two about that. So hopefully that comes across well to you guys. And of course, let me know if there's anything you need to know or you want to figure out, or if there's anything in particular you want videos on, because I'm sure if you want it, someone else does, and it will be beneficial for everyone. Let's now talk about variety within the game modes. I think that it's actually pretty good. World of Tanks console has never had so much variety between the different kind of game modes that you can play now. Obviously we have Cold War, we have World War II, the two separate modes with different vision mechanics, so I think that there's something for everyone, whether you want more of a simulator, which is the Cold War version, which of course also has World War II tanks in it, because, yeah, I think they're basically saying that if you like True Vision, well, you can still play your favourite tanks within World War II, but on the Cold War version. So yeah, there's kind of that overlap that I think that they've introduced, probably to get more people to play Cold War. And I think that as the game mode has developed, you know, there's definitely opportunity to play it and grind out different tech tree lines. And if you've been playing World War II for like 7 years, you're probably looking forward to actually getting your hands on new content that are definitely coming out a lot faster than the World War II stuff. But I don't think that, you know, there's necessarily any real hindrance to World War II. I've said that, you know, they shouldn't focus on one over the other. There should definitely be a stream of content coming to both, and we've seen that with the French wheel vehicles. So credit where credit is due, Wargaming are actually producing content on both. Is it as fast as it was previously before World of Tanks Modern Armour, as we now know it, came about? No, but you know, that's the case of trying to just bring in a whole new kind of line. Do I agree with every single decision? Absolutely not. Does anyone agree with everyone else's 100% decisions? No, probably not. You probably don't agree with some of the decisions that I may say, and I'm sure you don't agree with 100% of the decision that Wargaming make, and of course that's where having communication is always good. And that's what I try and convey within these videos. It's not always about, yeah, this is the best way to play Lakeville, or this is the best tank you can play at tier 5. It's more about like giving you the thought process to have a look at the game as a whole, learn it, and hopefully gain something out of the videos, which is the main aim. And if that is what actually happens, then jobs are good and I am happy with that. And hopefully you kind of are as well. If you're watching these videos, I'm assuming that you actually do enjoy them, at least to some degree, or find them informative at the very least. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. We won't be ending the video there, so don't click off yet, but let's jump into another topic that I think is really important to talk about as well. After 8 years, I think the Matchmaker has been one of the kind of key areas of World of Tanks console that's caused controversy. I mean, not even just the console version. World of Tanks PC, World of Tanks Blitz, they all have different kind of matchmaking styles and how they've tried to balance it throughout all of the various different World of Tanks versions. And console have definitely struggled as well. Exactly the same as PC. You know, they've tested out various different matchmaking. Currently we're seeing +1 -1 that comes around every so often, and you'll actually notice that this weekend there will be a +1 -1 matchmaking event that goes on for the whole weekend. So if you're looking to actually play or grind out tech trees, make sure that you're playing this weekend, as just a little tip there. As of the recording of this video, of course, if you're watching 3 weeks down the line, forget it. But yeah, definitely play this weekend. And of course, we've also had the class-based matchmaking system that's come in, where they're basically trying to line up every single team so that there are an exact number of heavy tanks on one side, exact number of heavy tanks on the other side, and then there are a set amount of light tanks on each side and a set amount of mediums and stuff like that, to really try and balance up the game so that one side doesn't just lose horrifically because, you know, one team has 4 light tanks and the other team has 2 light tanks, and then the team with the 2 light tanks has more heavy tanks, and you're playing on a heavy map, and then it becomes unbalanced in that regard before you've even started or anyone's even tried to play the game itself. So I think that that's really important that Wargaming kind of try and focus on getting that down. I know a lot of people, and I know probably you yourself, enjoy +1 -1 in some stints. Does that mean that it should be 100% of the time +1 -1? I don't think so. I think the +2 -2 gives that little bit of edge factor where you feel like you're the underdog in some situations. Is it always fun to be the bottom tier? No. But I definitely feel like, for me personally, it gives me a bit of a chance to test my skill. Can I be in a tier 6 and literally outperform tanks that are 2 tiers higher than me? Then yes, but for the average player that's only been playing, you know, maybe a couple months, for example, it's not particularly fun when you're coming up against a vehicle that is literally better than you in every way. And when you've only been playing for like 2 months, you probably don't know the most amount about the game, or have been able to learn the game to the full extent of someone like myself that's been playing for 8 years. You know, I would hope that I have learnt something in those 8 years to be able to play just a little bit better than someone who's been playing for like a month or 2. So hopefully that kind of gets resolved in a little bit more of a fashion. Maybe they come in with like an event or something a bit more regularly, where maybe every other day is +1 -1, or just some sort of feature like that, where I think we get a little bit more opportunity to choose the game mode. I mean, choosing whether you want to play +1 -1 or +2 -2 would be good, but I just don't think that there's enough players within the game to be able to consistently do that on console. So I think there's that to consider. But I don't want to ramble too much. The main focus of this video was to get your opinion as to what you think about the game. What do you think about the whole YOLOing that's going on right now? What do you think about the actual gameplay itself of World of Tanks? Do you feel like, you know, you're enjoying it more? And do you feel like it's got worse since the French wheeled light tanks? How do you feel that they affect the game? And just really give me your opinion as to what you're feeling about the game. Are you happy? Are you enjoying it a hell of a lot more? I certainly am enjoying the different content that I can create and just advance and just do all of these different stuff within all of the game modes, and it certainly gives me plenty of stuff to talk about, which is always good. And of course, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you did enjoy this video and found it somewhat informative. Obviously, if you want to check out any guides to gameplay, or you want to just have a look at some reviews of the latest Season Pass tanks, there will be links on screen right now to those playlists, and you can check them out in the description as well. Other than that, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week, and join me on that +1 - 1 matchmaking this weekend. Goodbye.